All right, Kevin Acee, our Padres insider. Padres Dodgers tonight, game one from Dodger Stadium. Kevin, we always appreciate your time. I loved the article that I believe was published yesterday, maybe in today's UT, though. Padres believe the beginning to their season will lead to a better ending. This lead, like it's difficult to find a Padres player who knows the team's record. And I think for those that haven't read it, I think I understand the point from the team perspective. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's more about the trends and the work and the progress at this point. I mean, it's April 12th, than it is about being 8-7 or 7-8. Is that basically the team's perspective at this point?
Yes. And yes, that's convenient, right?
Right.
But also, I believe there's validity to it. And I did know, like, I felt a little weird writing it. And I did know some of the reaction that I would get to it, which was, that no, it's about wins and losses. And, well, of course it is. But early in the season, it's other things that kind of tell you or give you a hint as to what the wins and losses might look like down the road. And that is harder for us to grasp this year because we all have a little bit of leftover anxiety, and we are viewing what happens this year through the lens of last year when it got tiresome and was ultimately proved to be wrong, that the Padres felt like everything would turn around. And so, but if we don't do that, if we just take this season and say, hey, what are the indicators? Then, you know what? Okay. All right, cool. I'm willing to, after 15 games, that whatever it is, 9.1% of the season, say, all right, guys, sure. Okay. You can show me now, but I understand what you're saying.
And we know that when the Padres play the Dodgers, the fans, it ratchets up to another level, right? I'm sure you see the clicks on your stories about Padres Dodgers. They're up another level, right? We see all that. But from a player's perspective, do you feel like they view this when they play the Dodgers as like, okay, we're going to take our game maybe up to just another level here because it's, Padres Dodgers instead of Padres Marlins on a Wednesday afternoon?
Okay, the way you ended it that's great. My answer is gonna be a little different than it was gonna be before you made that comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Like it would be maybe a little bit like if they were playing the Yankees versus the Marlins. But yes, the Dodgers, is it ramped up? Sure, it's in division and it's the Dodgers. But where I was gonna go with it first is like in comparison to some earlier years, not as much. First, it was this measuring stick, right? Oh, how much closer are we getting? And to beat a team like this, you got to play a certain way. And I really do believe that they've changed in that. But the answer to your question is on a strict yes or no basis is yes. But then, like they didn't line up their pitchers, and I remember some years when they did. And I don't think that what we'll hear out of them is anything different.
Kevin Acee is our Padres insider. I want to say, and it could be wrong, but I'll say it anyway, that the Padres have the most big innings in baseball, the most 4+ runs in an inning so far in baseball. Just in general, the offense has been better than it was a year ago. That's basically undeniable. I guess my question for you, Kevin, would be, why are they better?
Right. So to me, by the way, I agree with you. Your statement is fact. About it being the most.
Okay.
And I believe it's a bigger indicator than, say, what their batting average is
right
now, right? Which all their numbers are up this year versus 15 games last year versus end of season last year. But that is an indicator, big innings, 4 runs, 5 runs, 6 runs. They also have the most 3+ runs innings. But it's an indicator of being able to string together good, hits, to be able to get a lot of guys on, to be able to put the ball in play. And that's why that's, to me, the bigger indicator this early in the season of what they are capable of. And I fully buy into that. Matter of fact, Darren Smith makes fun of me for bringing that up so much. I will not stop because I believe that for now, it's a big deal. Why is it different? I got a story coming out here an hour or so about that they're more aggressive in the zone. They just are, both individually and collectively. Now, Juan Soto and Trent Grisham being gone, that has something to do with that collectively. But everybody virtually, and especially the guys who in the past have seen a lot of pitches per plate appearance, have worked counts, they're not this year. I don't know that Victor Rodriguez and his crew are teaching anything different than any of the other 45 batting coaches the Padres have had in the last decade.
Right.
Maybe saying some things different. but it's being received differently. And I think we've talked about this before. There are a lot of things being received differently because they were embarrassed last year, and because they missed the playoffs by 2 victories, and they lost the most one-run games. One of the worst one-run records in history. And what affects that? Putting the ball in play, getting productive outs, maybe a hit instead of a walk. To me, the at-bat that summed up last year was Juan Soto walking with the bases loaded while they were down by 2 in the 9th inning. And he knew who was coming up. I believe they were out of pinch hitters. It was not good. He was their last best hope, and he took a walk. And as I remember the at bat, it was a tip. It wasn't like he tried anything different than that. And that to me summed it up. And what would I say are the at bats that sum up this year? Jurickson Profar, who, if I had to bet on anyone on this team to go 8 or 11 pitches in an at bat, it would be Jurickson Profar. And the guy is swinging at the first and second pitch exponentially more than he ever has in his career.
Yeah, it seems like the Juan Soto walk discussion is being brought up more and more nowadays, for sure. Kevin, the next thing I wanted to talk about with you, and you mentioned his name, Jurickson Profar. He's been fantastic to start this year, but it's not just him. Of the others on this team, you can make a case that Jake Cronenworth has been one of the biggest surprises of this year. You make the case that Luis Campisano. You can make a case for Jackson Merrill, Jurickson Profar. Of those 4 guys, though, Kevin, who do you think's been the most, impactful to this team this year?
Jurickson Profar's had the most big hits, but Jake has as well, obviously, right? With that home run, there was another time where he had put away RBI that, put a game out of reach, I think it was. And obviously his overall numbers are really good. I think you mentioned 4 guys that but Profar probably a Tim, but you could say Cronenworth holding his own, more than holding his own in the number 3 spot, which obviously raised a lot of eyebrows, right? So you could say, given where he's batting and the fact that he's done well, that you could make a case for him for sure. But Profar early on, and I think this is maybe a little better. But this is about what the Padres figured they would get from Profar early. He's an impactful guy, even when his numbers aren't great. He's an impactful guy. But I alluded to before in the previous topic, I think he's made some changes, and now we'll just see if they hold up.
So does this kind of squash the conversation about Tommy Pham for a little while?
Never.
Not possible.
Like I said, the reason I'm glad you went that direction, because that's sort of the reason that I awkwardly brought up. Hey, this is about what they expected they'd get. Look, they're a lineup in flux. They need another bat. They want another bat, and that's what they believe. And it was always Jurickson Profar, we're going to ride this guy as long as we can. We don't know if he's our everyday left fielder for the entire season, but we believe in Jurickson. We like Jurickson, and there's a whole bunch of off the field stuff, but also he played all winter, had a full spring training. We think Jurickson's going to start out being just fine for us, and then we'll see after that. And so that's why I brought that up. So I'm glad that you then brought up Tommy Pham, or maybe go in another direction. I do believe that they continue to be in discussions about other bats.
Kevin Acee is our Padres insider. So Michael King tonight at Dodger Stadium. What do you believe to be as realistic from an innings perspective? And I don't know if they've been cautious, so to speak, or not. He's got 14 to third innings in 3 appearances this year. Opponents have hit just 189 off him so far this year. He did have an outing or 2 where the walks have been elevated, but he threw basically 100 innings last year. So does that mean that he has restrictions when we get to the second half of the year, or is that a conversation once we get there?
It's been a conversation. It was a part of the first conversation that Michael King and Ruben Niebla had. And it depends, right? What do those innings look like? That could play in. But when Michael King told me that he wanted to pitch 180 innings this year,
right,
I had to stifle a laugh. And then to do the research, and it's, yes. Would that be a gigantic jump? Yes. Would it be somewhat rare? Yes. It's been done. There are paths to it. And Seth Lugo showed all of us, Ruben Niebla, the fact that Seth Lugo was here last year and made the jump from, 80-something to 148, I think it was, or 146, that really showed everybody something. And it just depends on the pitcher. And so Michael King has his sights set high. I believe that the Padres number is more like 150.
Okay, 150
is a good amount, I think.
Yeah.
Still.
If they have to limit Michael King to 150, if they have to pull the reins back and say, hey, that means Michael King's had a pretty good season.
Yep.
Kevin, Manny Machado, it feels like, we're going to take a while for him to get back in the field. We mentioned last week that, April, I think is somewhere end of April that they're looking at him there. Do you feel like he is getting more comfortable at the plate and there's no issues with the elbow there for him? Because, mentioning he's not going to be 100% until next year, like that was kind of like a little shock there. But at the plate, it feels like he's getting better there and more comfortable, and we should see more production out of him there.
It seems so. The last 3, 4, 5 games. It seems. I cannot speak to the elbow. He says it's fine. Everybody says it's fine. We've heard that before. One thing Manny Machado does is post. Right? Like no matter what, I don't care if you're a Milwaukee fan booing him, like we're going to hear next week. You would have to say, this guy plays and he plays hurt and he plays all the time. And so I can't, his health, I'm not going to 100% say, but it looks like the last couple games that he is healthy, that he is getting comfortable. And that's both like that he's actually getting hits and where those hits are going and how they're traveling. Some of the underlying things say that Manny's fine.
Yeah, and I think very quietly he's actually hitting 5 consecutive games. I think baseball changed what was ruled an error to a hit, which has allowed Machado now to hit in each of his last 5 games. Kevin, we appreciate it.
Hey, let me check with you guys because I'm getting a text from someone that we both know. Did you hear me say that I prefer Profar over Soto?
That was the exact quote. I read
Yes.
the article. You said that too, right, Kevin?
That's going to be our header for this interview, Kevin.
Yeah. Not in 1 million years at the plate, if I need a hit or a walk, generally speaking, would I prefer, or over the course of a season, if I need production, would I prefer Juan Soto over Jurickson Profar? When we are specifically speaking about certain instances, then even the person texting me who may or may not host the show midday damn well knows what I was saying.
You're talking about Jonathan Rifkin. Real quick, we have 30 seconds. I don't know if you've seen this. Padres roster moves Morejon up. Avala designated for assignment. So Adrian Morejon back up, Avala down. Any initial reaction to that?
Well, I thought it was going to happen before the last game after he pitched a couple innings.
Yep.
They're going to lose Avala probably because he has to go on waivers. He's out of options. And that's a shame. But you know what? And I don't mean this to demean Pedro Avala. He's dime a dozen. I mean, now that comes back to haunt you when you don't have someone to fill the innings like he does, right? But in terms of just a 4A pitcher who covers innings, I mean, and Adrian Morejon, sure, is every right to be disappointed in what Adrian Morejon has been after he was the record-breaking international signing. But that guy's electric when he's on, and he's been pitching pretty well in AAA.
Kevin, thank you. Enjoy the weekend. We'll do it again next week, all right?
Right on. Take care.